Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. So in the source code for this one, I'll include the SQL file so that you can have the database file that we have here. So check the link in the description for that. Alright, so let me add my password here so we can log in and continue. So we are on courses here and we are finishing this curriculum section. Okay, great. So what I want us to do here is, these are sections. These are supposed to be called sections. And we are trying to recreate this section here in Udemy. So as you can see, there's section 1, and then there's lecture 1 here. Now, in the section here, even though this one is a section, it only has one input there. But here, when we try to edit the section, you see that there's two. There's introduction and what will students be able to learn to do at the end of the section. So you have to write something here. Now this can have multiple, for as long as there are more than one field, then it's possible to have more than one, I guess. You can have 3 or 4. So what we need to do is identify which items in one of these sections is only, how do I put this? What we can put in one row of this section, because as far as we're concerned, if we go to the table, you'll see that this is the courses meta. This is where the information is saved, okay, for the courses meta. That's where these so-called sections are saved as well. So here where it says data type, it's on curriculum, right? So that's the data type, curriculum, which is right here. But on top of that, we need to add a second thing, which is this one. So what we would do is this, since this is just one item, just like the way the title of the section is, there's just one title per section and one of these descriptions per section. If we had another one here to still be one item for this section, then we can put all those in a single row. This is different from when, if I click, you see where it says lecture here, click down here, I can add multiple resources on the same lecture. Here there's only one description and one title. Very different from this. So which means this can be put in one row, this cannot. It will need a different table to the lecture because we can have multiple of these in one lecture. Unless there's a set number that you can put, maybe only 4 resources, then you can put that in one row because you know the limit. But where you allow the user to put as many resources as they need, then you need a separate table for that. All right, so let's add one more column in the table because for this section description, right? So if we come back here, we have course ID to match that, the data type, then there's a value, but we can also put another column for description. So let's go to this structure here and let's add one more column for description, like so. Now description, we can put maybe 1080, 1024 characters. That's up to you what you want to put there. And be sure to select that it can allow no values because not every column in here will have a description. So if I come back here, you see this old original content doesn't have a description, but this one could. Everything from curriculum will have that. Right, so this is the only thing we can add here. The lectures themselves we cannot add to this same row because we can have 10 lectures per section, and so that's not sustainable here. So we'll have a separate table for lectures and a separate table for resources that belong to this particular lecture. So we'll have to add two more tables, one for lectures and their description, because one lecture title and description are one item here. What else is one? Let's see here, resources. You can add videos, right? Maybe if you can only add one video, maybe one slideshow and maybe one article. Let's try and add an article and see what's going on here. So we'll say article 01 and let's save that. All right, so that's saved. There's an article. What if we try to add more resources? Oh, okay, so we can only add one item per lecture, which is nice. That way we don't need to add more tables. So one item, we just need to know what type it is. Is it an article? Is it a video? Etc, etc. So preview as student. So there's one description, one article. Let me click on this. Edit content, maybe. Yes. Add article. Okay. Let me replace with video, maybe. Okay, let me cancel that. Okay, so at least I know that there's only one of these that is required per lecture. So that's good, which means we can put the lecture title, the lecture article, and lecture video in the same row and lecture description. The only thing that we will need are these resources that can be multiple, where downloadable file, etc, etc. So that's better. All right, so with this in mind, let's make sure that this kind of system is possible. And then if I cancel here from the editing, you see that it defaults to an editable version like this. So it doesn't leave those items open for editing, but you can do that if you want or not. So once the thing is all right, so we need to change this now. Now that we have that column, we need to change this to have a description as well. So let me delete this. Oh, wait a minute, you can't delete this item. You need minimum of 4 items. Okay, so let's fix those things first of all. And let's fix the, do these work? I think these work just fine. Okay. So let's fix these items. For example, when I click to delete, it says you need a minimum of so and so, which should not be true here. Here we should have 0 such requirements. Okay, so back to our code. Let's go to app and let me go to view, and this one is the admin and courses view. All right, so let's go down to where we have curriculum. The curriculum object should be the last one here. So there it is, curriculum. So let's look for these numbers now. Minimum inputs right there, curriculum, minimum inputs. Let's reduce that to 0. Okay, so let's try that again. If I now refresh the page, try to delete this guy. Are you sure? Yes. So that's deletable. Are you sure? Yes, that's deletable. Okay, cool. That's very nice. That works as intended. But again, if I refresh, those will come back because we haven't saved. So if I do save, let me save here and see what happens. Course saved successfully. Great. Let's try and refresh. We still have those two things. Why is it that we still have them? Let's browse here and see what's going on. So this guy is disabled quite rightly, but then we still get it when we try to read the data. So which means it's disregarding the disabled feature here. So let's see if we can fix that. So I'm going to go to, we need to find out how we're reading this information in the first place. So that one is in the controllers admin section. Let's go to courses edit. So that's the courses and this is the edit action. Then down here we have read. Let's look for get meta, because that's the one that gets our metadata. So when we get here, this is what we're looking for, right? As long as the data is part of the course ID, then we're reading it back. But what we need to do is add disabled as part of what we are looking for. So where course ID is equal to this, we should use the AND here by just adding another item to the array, which is disabled must be equal to 0. So let's come back here and back. So one of these must be removed. So let's refresh, and there it is. One of them is gone. All right, things are good there as well. Good. So great, things are working now. And then let's see if we can, okay, so this also is working, nothing bad here, correctly so. So let's just add one more input box around this. So we need to redesign this a little bit. So what I'll do is, let's go to the courses view now. Same in the curriculum section. Let's come down to where this is really where the source comes from, right? The item is this one. But wait a minute, I'm forgetting something here. This is the original way that it looks like, curriculum view. Right. Okay. All right, we'll test those things a bit later. Now I want to change this. So there's one input field here and the rest. Wait a second. So what I need is just an extra input field, because the rest of these guys will delete the whole thing. So if I delete this, it's deleting the title plus the description that I'll add here. So they are one unit. Even moving up and down, same thing. So I should consider this as one unit. Now let me just add an extra. I don't know how to do this. Hopefully I will not mess things up here. So first of all, I'll just duplicate the input, right? So it's got a UUID there, that's fine. So since there's only one UID, even with the description, we don't need it on the second one. So let's remove the UID from this. Now, instead of object.value, this one will be object.description. That's because this is the name we've given this column there. So that's what we're reading from. Let's look for more stuff. So the name, let's see, input counts, curriculum ID, input count, object name underscore. Okay, let's leave that for now. We'll see what it has. Placeholder, we can have a description placeholder here if we want to, because this is a placeholder for the other side. So wait a second. Instead of complicating things, we can just write enter a description, because that never really changes. Especially on this section, actually, these things don't change. So that's fine. It's different with this tab here, because there are separate sections. Here there's only one section, so the placeholders will always be the same. Let me refresh though, and this is what I get. So let me try and add a new section. So when I add a new section, this is what I get. Enter title. There's undefined here. Let me see what the enter a description. Okay, so the undefined is probably the value, saying description object.value is equal to undefined UUID. Okay, so these are things that don't exist when you first create this item because it's not yet reading from the database. So let me do this. If it's undefined, put an empty string. Okay, cool. So let's refresh again. Okay, there we go. Very nice, very nice. But what I want is for these boxes to fill up this entire space here. So what I'll do is let's change the design a little bit. We can put in a div here to hold these as one object. So I'll do a div like so. And then closing div here. That way these two are in one section. And then I'll grab whatever this is class, whatever class was on this one. So class is equal to, like that. Let's grab a column 9. Actually, all of this, grab that. Let's put it here. Let's see how that changes things. Oh, I went to the theme homepage. Okay, so there it is. We have all these and that. Now the reason it's like that is because also this has this column 9 thing. So let's remove those from the internal stuff. That way it goes all the way to the end. Oopsie daisy. Okay, so instead of doing that, let's put column 12 like that. So they fill up the entire space. Bootstrap classes there. Okay, there we go. Now, of course, this is a poor design here, but you can spend your time and redesign these using the classes that are given by Bootstrap. No problem with that. There's padding here. Let me add a little bit of margin. Let's see, maybe margin between these two. Let me put margin Y1 like so. So let's see that. Let me refresh. Okay, so that leaves a bit of space between these two. I don't know about the look. There's also padding on the top of these guys, which is stopping things from looking great, I guess. Let me remove this. The PY2. Let's leave the margins. Let's see for a second here. Okay, so the padding Y is what I've removed. That's not what I wanted to remove. Okay, let's remove the margins. I want this to fill up the space. These guys are too big. So maybe it's because they don't have this padding Y, I guess. Let me try this. Padding Y2. Oh, an error occurred? Why? Okay, I don't want to waste time on styling, so do your styles. I may fix this later, but at least we have two inputs here. That's what I'm concerned about, so that once I save this description, it should save in the right place. So let's look at what info this one has by inspecting like so. And let's go here. Let's look at the name, curriculum 0. Okay, that's great. But this other one also has curriculum 0, which is not great because now this is supposed to be a description. So we'll say curriculum. What we'll do instead, we'll put how do we fix this? So this is going to be curriculum underscore description underscore 0. Okay, let's try that. So with the name here, already what we have is fine. But before the number, right here, let's add description and then an underscore as well. So let me save that. Let's come back and refresh. Let's inspect. Okay, there we go. So curriculum description 0. That makes it different to this one, which has curriculum 0. Okay, that's great. At least now we have some uniqueness which we can use in the saving process. So let me close this. Now what we need to check is how the data is saved so we can send it to the right place. So coming back here, if we're in the admin section here, we're going to this is a read, we want the save. So save is right there. Okay, great. So everything else, intended learners, this is not our tab. So we have to go to the curriculum section right there. Okay, so this is how we save things. So here we're looking for if the value, if the key matches this one, where there's this, an underscore, and that. Okay, so that's cool. There's one with UID, that's great. But what we want now is one with description. So before I do all of this, it's a good idea to know exactly how the data is being received here. So I'm just going to do show post like this, and then die. Okay. Then I'm going to make sure that in the courses view section here, when data is returned, we should display it. So I want to go back to when we save, yes, down to the script tags. So there should be save data or handle result. Right here is handle result. The console.log is active so that we can see what we're receiving. So back here, let me just refresh my page. I'll just type some description. Then I will inspect the console, make sure it's clean, so I'll clear it out, and then hit the save button. Okay, so this is what is sent there. So we do have curriculum description 0 right there. So you can tell that this curriculum description 0 goes with curriculum 0 and UUID curriculum 0. Now, since we're already using UUID curriculum 0, we can also use, instead of swapping these, we can follow the same mode. We put description at the beginning and then curriculum 0, because that's the format we used here. So let's try that. Come back here. Where is that? Let me go down to where we're editing. Yeah, so instead of the description being here, I'll cut this part and put it at the beginning. So description underscore that. Okay, great. So let's see if that changed. Let me refresh the page. Let's type again some description. Then let me empty the console and let's hit the save button. And there we go. So we have description underscore curriculum 0. Very nice. So the same way we saved the UUID, we can do exactly the same thing to save. So I'll remove these two guys. So right here is where we grab the UUID, right? So we can just do exactly the same, just duplicate this, but instead of UID, let's put description at the beginning there. So if the key follows the name description underscore, and then some name there underscore a number, then we know this is the one. And instead of saving it in the meta UIDs, we're going to say metadata descriptions. So UUIDs is here. Let's try descriptions like so. Okay, so that's what we will use here, meta descriptions. Let me do that. Wait a second. My mouse again is fighting with me. Paste like so. So metadata descriptions, key and value. So great. So now that we have that, let's go along with this. Disable all records. That's great. This does the job just fine. And then this is where we save the data. So right here where we're putting the UID, let's just duplicate that and put description instead. So description, oops, not that, description. And let me move that back. Same thing here, I'll put description. Okay, description key. And then this is the description. Wait, that's the, yeah, the array name and that. Okay, that's good. Now the thing is, description will not always exist, so we have to be careful here. Excuse me, it won't always exist, but on curriculum actually it will. But okay, so since we're on curriculum, it actually always will, so that's fine, I guess. So we put it like that and then save things. Now what are we doing here? That's why it's good to comment these things out. Courseware UUID. Okay, so we're just checking to see if there's an existing UUID. If not, we generate a new one. Old IDs, old meta, a new one, insert. Okay, that's good. I think that will work just fine. So let's test this. So I'm going to refresh the page, close that, and let me just type some description, and let's hit save. Save. Okay, great. Let's now refresh the page. Okay, so an error occurred while we did that, but let's see if we actually saved something in the database, and apparently we did not. Okay, so something went wrong. Let's try and figure out what it was.